hacks to a better future today. Life hacks to a world made up of broken ways. Today we're talking about heels and what they're doing to your body. So today we're kicking it off with a quick history on heels and where they come from. High heels is what we're talking about. So heels, surprisingly enough, showed up in the ancient Egyptian times around 3500 BC.
Here the nobles wore them to separate themselves from the lower class.
On the other hand, the butchers would use heels to separate themselves from the blooded bodies of animal carcasses. Seems realistic.
Yummy! The ancient Greeks and Romans really enjoyed wearing a platform sandal called the kurthoni. Rumor has it that they were particularly popular among the acting crowd who used them in the play to differentiate social classes from each other. Seems like people like to separate classes. In ancient Rome, sex trade was actually legal. They'd use the high heels to identify people within the trade for potential clients, thus birthing high heels being associated with prostitution. Now in the 1900s, Parisian horseback warriors would have little heel extensions to keep their feet from sliding out of the stirrups.
They were also used to keep them still while they shot at the bad guys.
Nowadays, heels are just used for aesthetic purposes. Apart from cowboy boots, those are sexy and functional. And that concludes our reading for today of a brief history of heels. Now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of what heels do to your body. Humans have been evolving for about 2.5 million years, and all the while evolving with their heels on the ground. Now, considering that the average high heel is about 2 to 5 inches tall, when you take your heel off the ground, you're systematically shortening your heel cord. The wild and wacky thing about our body is that if you give it a position, it has this funny way of adapting to it, like it's got your back. Now, keeping in mind, my friends, this is not always a good thing. It will help you for a little while, but in the meantime, there are a lot of problems that are headed your way. It's like a short-term fix, and then the long-term fix, it's like, that's not sustainable. The third point is it takes your center of mass, which is that line that divides your body in half on the side, and it takes the heel up, shifting the center of mass forward, so then you have to compensate at the lower back by overextending to bring your weight back to find the center of mass. This is where we start seeing a lot of back problems start to occur, not to mention the reality down the road of what it does to your feet. This brings us to our fourth point, which is our feet. Have you ever seen one of those really gnarly pictures of feet that are pointed in so much that they literally mimic the exact shoe that they're wearing? Now, what's ironic about this photo is that the shape of the foot mimics the front part of a high heel you'd see where the feet are jammed in and then squeezed together, creating bunions and hammer toes. If you look at what feet used to look like up here, this is a normal foot that is allowed to spread out, absorb impact, and be stable to support the rest of the structure above it. So parting words are, keep your heels on the ground. Your heel cords will thank you in the long run. Last and final question, have you ever seen a baby's feet? Yeah, when they squat down, the feet, yeah, they look pretty sweet. Why? Because they're not stuck in shoes all day. They're not lifting their heels off the ground. They're not systematically shortening their heel cord. So they have full range of motion at the ankle. Yeah, that's pretty useful. Populations that have to sit on the ground